I've wanted to make a video about how unreliable ChatGPT really is. And because I think a lot of people are using ChatGPT not just for creative means or artificial intelligence or for creating things, but also for fact checking. They're using that instead of the internet. And I'm afraid that we are entering an era where artificial intelligence is going to lead to great confusion because it is not a reliable source of information. And I want to show you why it's not. Every time I use ChatGPT and I've asked it a question of to do something, I get wrong results. Almost every time. I would say maybe I get a right result 30% of the time. Most of the time it's wrong. Most of the time I have to correct it. And it's probably less than 30% that is correct. Now, I don't have any issue with creating fiction or using AI as image generators to generate, strange images and things. But you cannot use it for fact checking, for getting historical information, or any evidence-based things, scientific facts, engineering facts. None of that will work. It's a language model. In other words, it can inject it can write English or a language. It can write that and collect data from the internet to spit it out in a better way, regurgitate it in a cleaner way. And it can mesh things together, and it can maybe add tonation to it. It can add emotion in it. It can make it sound rude or happy or friendly or persuasive. It can do things like that to the language. But the actual content of it is not going to be 100% original, and it's not going to be 100% accurate. It is basically a weaving together of a bunch of things that it just pulls from. It's like pulling threads out of different bowls of yarn and just weaving it together. None of it is original, and there's no real actual 100% accurate structure to it. Now, prior to ChatGPT, the internet has caused the same confusion in people that they think the internet is a reliable source of information. Wikipedia, for example, is not an encyclopedia. Anybody can edit Wikipedia. And so you can never rely on your Wikipedia as a sole source of information. You have to fact check it, not for scientific facts, not for historical facts, not for personal facts on celebrities, for example, or just fact-based anything. You can get sort of general guidance there, maybe find some references where you can look up things, but do not just simply blindly use Wikipedia information as a factual source of information. But nobody reads books anymore. Nobody goes to libraries anymore. The libraries at universities are essentially empty because students no longer use books. This is a big problem. But let me show you. So I did a video this morning about the helicopter crash in New York. And I asked ChatGPT just this quick question. I said, let me put up a screen here. I said, if a Bell 206 tail rotor stopped turning, which way would the helicopter swivel? And listen to what ChatGPT says. It says, if the tail rotor on a Bell 206L long ranger stops turning, the helicopter would begin to yaw, spin uncontrollably to the left, counterclockwise, when viewed from above. And now it gives me a why. It says, And let me just highlight this sentence here, or this paragraph. It's 2 sentences, but it contradicts itself in these 2 sentences. The Bell 206L has a counterclockwise rotating main rotor. Imagine that the rotor is rotating this way, as seen from above. As that rotor spins, it generates torque that would naturally cause the fuselage to spin in the opposite direction, to the left, unless counteracted. So the rotor spins counterclockwise, the fuselage would spin in the opposite direction, which is counterclockwise. That's what it's saying. It's contradicting itself, and it doesn't recognize it. It repeats it in the next one. There is no force to counter the torque, so the fuselage begins to spin leftward. This is called loss of tail rotor thrust. It sounds very convincing, by the way. Result, uncontrolled left yaw in a flat spin. Pilots may attempt an auto rotation to reduce torque and regain some control, but depending on the altitude and airspeed, recovery may be difficult or impossible. Yeah, it's not possible. You cannot fly a helicopter without a tail rotor. So I recognized this immediately, that this is because I knew the answer. I just checked what ChatGPT would say. So I said again, I asked again, I said, if it has a counterclockwise rotating main rotor, the opposite direction would be yaw to the what? So now ChatGPT corrects itself without correcting itself. It says, great question, let's clarify it clearly. If a helicopter like the Bell 206L, which has a counterclockwise rotating main rotor, as seen from above, loses tail rotor thrust, the main rotor spins counterclockwise, so by Newton's third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The fuselage wants to spin clockwise. Now it's the right. Fuselage wants to go to the right. The tail rotor pushes against this clockwise spin, keeping the helicopter stable. So if the tail rotor stops working, the fuselage will spin uncontrollably to the right. That is clockwise when viewed from above. Summary, main rotor rotation counterclockwise, tail rotor failure result, uncontrolled clockwise right yaw of the fuselage. Let me know if you want a visual or simple way to remember this. Now it's asking me if it can remind me how to do that. And I just said that's better. But you see, since I knew the answer, I corrected ChatGPT and it corrected itself. But it was lying to me, either deliberately or it didn't really catch its own contradiction. It didn't also admit that it was incorrect. About a month ago, I asked it, give me every instance of abuse, fraud, theft, all abuses that the Doge team under Elon Musk uncovered, with dates and figures in dollars. ChatGPT's answer, after thinking for about a half a minute, there is no such thing as Doge. It just flatly denied the existence of the Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, which is not an official department, I suppose. It is just an unofficial entity, but it exists, and there have been reports, at least, of claims that they have uncovered fraud. Let's do a live example here. I'd like to give my audience a feel for something that is 10 nanometers in diameter. Use everyday objects to explain how minute this is. All right. So, okay, here's a vivid, audience-friendly way to help people grasp just how tiny 10 nanometers is, using everyday objects and relatable comparisons. How small is 10 nanometers? A nanometer is 1/1000th of a meter, or 1,000 millionths of a meter. And 10 nanometers is just 10 of those. Let's bring that down to Earth, with things that you can actually picture. A human hair. A single strand of hair is about 80 to 100,000 nanometers wide. So 80 microns to 100 microns. That's correct. That means 10 nanometers is 1/10,000th the width of a human hair. That is roughly correct. A virus like the influenza or HIV, are around 100 to 120 nanometers in diameter. 10 nanometers is 10 times smaller than a virus. That's about correct. DNA strand, the width of a DNA double helix is about 2.5 nanometers. So 10 nanometers is roughly the width of 4 strands of DNA. Light wave. The shortest wavelength of visible light is around 400 nanometers to human eyes. 10 nanometers is 40 times smaller than the smallest wavelength of visible light, meaning it's invisible even under regular microscopes. That's correct. And then the Earth to scale analogy, listen to this one. Let's go big to go small. If a human hair were as wide as the Earth, a 10 nanometer object would be the size of a grape. Well, you can do the math here, but if the Earth is 12,700 or so kilometers in diameter, then a grape is not 1/10,000th of that large. So 1/1000th of 12,000 kilometers is 12 kilometers, and 1/10,000th of that of 12,000 kilometers would be 1 point something kilometers. So it's over a kilometer would be a 10,000th, not the size of a grape. A grape is much smaller than a kilometer. So this is incorrect. Incorrect. Bad ChatGPT. So it says summary, 10 nanometers is so small. It's smaller than a virus, smaller than the wavelength of light, invisible under regular microscopes. That is true. The wavelengths of light, of visible light, is bigger than 10 nanometers, and we cannot see anything that small. It's 10,000 times smaller than a hair, and about the size of an advanced microchip components. I doubt that microchip components are in the order of 10 nanometers. So this is honestly a bunch of baloney. It gave us some truth, but in there are a bunch of lies as well. So that's just an observation I would like to share with you. Another thing about AI that we should talk about in the future is that we are entering an era where there's going to be a battle of AIs, and we are going to be stuck in the middle. If you've ever encountered bureaucracy, you may know that bureaucrats love to make up forms. They love to give people work. But what if government entities, big companies, and so are starting to use AI to take over the role of bureaucrats, to give us work? This is going to happen. It's already happening in companies like Amazon, Apple, Microsoft. And these companies, Google, Facebook, and these companies are going to start imposing restrictions. Think of the advertising on Google. Think about the advertising on Facebook. Think about the regulations that they have to abide by, international regulations, because these are international companies. So the bureaucrats that's going to impose rules on us are going to be AI bureaucrats. Now, if you think this is inaccurate, just think how bureaucratic AI is going to impose rules inaccurately on us, and how difficult life is going to become, as we have to be following in the step in line to remain legit in the eyes of AI bureaucrats. And we are already there. This is not, I'm not making up fiction now. We are already there, that we are going to be unpoliced by AI bureaucrats. Some companies and people with enough resources will counter the AI bureaucrats with AI responders. So they will have AI that responds to the rules and procedures and bureaucratic regulations, and that's going to be springing up all over the place. But this is the beginnings of very difficult times for human beings on the planet, where AI is going to start ruling how we live and what we can do. Something to think about. Something to think about. But I think it's not a good thing. I don't think we're looking at happy times moving forward. I think AI is going to bring a lot of problems into society. Thanks for watching. This is Truth Matters Unplugged.